All right. I hope folks can hear me. I am Christian, Technical Animation Director at EA Games. We're here with Matt from Lead Gameplay
Hello.
Animator at
Hi,
Techland.
everyone.
This is a Q&A talk for his video, Why Gameplay Animators Should Be More Technical. Matt comes from a programming background, has been working with us in the industry for 8 years. He's worked at Ubisoft Paris on Ghost Recon Wildlands. He joined Techland in Poland to work on Dying Light and the expansion The Following. Since then, he's been working for the animation technology team to help create their next animation system for Dying Light 2. And he's currently, as I said before, lead tech gameplay animator on that project.
That's right. Thank you for a good introduction.
So, so there were some questions that we were watching the chat earlier today, and so there was a couple questions that we already had. One of them was, should we learn programming?
So it's not an obligation, of course. The fact that I have a programming background definitely helped me. But I guess the important thing to have in mind is that if you have the occasion to familiarize with yourself with at least some scripting language, I'm thinking Python right now, just because it's used, for example, in Motion Builder or in Maya, it will definitely help you. Just also because it supports that technical and that creative technical mindset that I was talking about during the talk. But no, it's not. We're still animators, which is art, and programming is a plus, but it's not a requirement.
What do you mean by type of technical animator?
Yeah, so it is actually a pretty interesting question, and sometimes and that's something I think you might be able to just give a little bit more depth to it at some point, Christian. But usually when we speak about technical animators, people have in mind people responsible for character setup. People working on skidding, on rigging, animation pipeline. Um, and in some studios, these people are also responsible for the implementation part of the gameplay. So they would be taking the work from created by gameplay animators and implementing it in the engine. And in some studios, I'm not sure if the name would be a different one, but technical animators specifically work on the implementation side and do not mandatorily work on the character setup. But do you have a word to say about this, Christian? Maybe.
Well, so at EA, your talk was really good. I think you're right that there has been an evolution of of what an animator does in games. Um, Before there was animators, and then there's technical animators, and animators would do animation, and technical animators were mostly doing rigging and skinning. At EA, we started using craft animators for those or content animators who work on solely uh, animation content. Uh, Same thing. We use gameplay animators. Now we use uh, the words runtime solutions or runtime systems. So it's a technical animator that works not in rigging or character setup, as you're saying, but runtime solutions such as the procedural things, which I think what a gameplay animator would be doing. And so I've started using that terminology more often. Um, it's not being used
Yeah, so
everywhere, but I think we need to start a little bit more of that fine tuning of terms.
that's how I had in mind when I took the title technical gameplay animator. I wanted to have that technical aspect highlighted in the job title, while still making sure people understood that it was still gameplay animation. And I still see people sometimes, recruiters contacted me and offering jobs that are specifically technical animation, as in rigging and skinning. But it's like you said, it's probably a new process, and maybe it will take different path. But that's how I want to call the the job that I'm doing on a daily basis, I guess.
Yeah, and I think for me, one of the questions that I have is like, for me, it's like, where do you draw the line between technical gameplay animator and like a technical designer? That's another term I've seen in the industry, like designers that are not pure, they're not doing pure idea making, but also in this in the engine. And I guess where do you have a do you have thoughts about that?
So to be honest, I have worked in the two studios I've worked in. Designers were not, at least when it comes to gameplay animation, were not really involved. They were mostly creating systems, of course, involved in the. I'm thinking, for example, combat system. So it's obviously something you work with designers a lot on a daily basis, but they were never involved in implementing the work of animators. I know some companies do that. For us, it was either gameplay programmers or it's always been gameplay animators, and it's probably also why I got used to it. But my guess would be that technical designers are people responsible for taking the work, so animations from animators and then implementing them in state machines, animation graphs, uh, and maybe just in-game cinematics, putting them in specific spot on the map on the world. Is that something that is technical designers? That's something in EA or in some of the studios over there.
I mean, it's like, as you say, I think each team has come to the problem differently. The sports teams that I've worked on, um, a lot there were technical designers. A lot of the gameplay technical animators would help craft the system with the programmers and then designers as well. But then after the system was prototyped quickly and ready to go, the designers would come in and start implementing a lot of content. I've worked on sports games like NBA Live, and football and Tiger Woods, and so there's a lot of content involved with lots of all the variety of all the athletes and all stars and all that needs fine tuning. And you wouldn't have an animator do that.
Okay, yeah.
You would give it to a designer um, who knows his sports, right? There's that example, and I think and I've seen similar things with Battlefield as well. You have designers that are technical and working on the locomotion and the gameplay aspects of it and trying to tune the speeds and all that. So I
Okay.
think. Yeah. Another question from the QA is it cooler to show animations as gameplay in a demo reel? What is preferred?
Is it cooler to show animations of gameplay in a demo reel? Was that the question?
Yeah, that's the question. It seems
As
more like
in, as in animation from an engine, I guess. Would that be the questions?
I think you could interpret it that way, like in engine work maybe.
Definitely. If that is if you're a gameplay animator, you should show as much content implemented as possible. One thing that I like to do, and I have a couple of fragments in my own demo reel, is that I'm showing first the animation from the DCC software I'm working in. So I'm mostly working in Motion Builder, but it doesn't really matter. I'm showing the animation once, and then I'm showing the result in game. So I'm just playing around and triggering that specific animation. And what you can do as well is just to add an overlay on your video and try to synchronize the animation in the engine and the one you've previously showed from a Maya or Motion Builder. And it then shows the work you've been doing upfront in your software and the result when you're having a pads in hands. And that's something I've been recruiting, looking for candidates myself. And when I see work implemented in engine, that's the growl really. Uh, and if for some reason you don't have access to game engines, or maybe you're not really familiar with some yet, then a cool option that you have as an alternative is to kind of simulate an in-game framing directly in your software. So you just a quick setup of a camera if you want to show something from a third person, which have a over the shoulder camera from a third person shooter, for example, is just to create a simple constraint using a camera and kind of simulate some kind of a in-game framing. Same thing if you're working on first-person animations, but then it makes sense to show them from that perspective, and so on and so on. But yeah, to me, gameplay animation reels should contain animations implemented and loops. To me, these are also mandatory because that's the you're going back to fundamentals of animations. And loops are animations that you will see, dozens and dozens of hours. So showing the work you've put on loops, and same thing, showing it in Maya or Mobu, and then in the game is really good. And it shows that you've understood the principles and the essence of gameplay animation. So yeah, it is
Yeah,
cooler.
yeah, I think that was a great answer. I definitely agree with everything you said. On that note, there's on a follow-up to that almost is on the reel, would it be beneficial to showcase more in-depth systems such as traversal, or to showcase many systems such as combat and environment interactions? It's another demo reel question.
My guess is if you've been if you have the experience and you've been busy enough to add to your demo lots of different contents: traversal, combat, melee combat, shooting mechanics, cover. Do it. I mean, it's unless you wanna. It's a demo reel that is made to apply to a specific studio, and maybe this specific studio is specifically interested by I don't know, cover mechanics or shooting mechanics. Then maybe spend some time fine tuning these and add some more variants, and do not spend or let's say waste too much time on polishing animations of melee combat. On the other hand, if you show many different elements of gameplay, this also means that you are good at all of them, and that you're a versatile developer and animator. And to us, or to recruiters, that's jackpot, right? So I guess it depends on the context. Sometimes demo reels could be oriented towards a specific studio or a project. But if you have all the tools and animations available, just put them all in, do a pretty cool edit, and it will make a huge impression. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I think I would add to that is that you always show your best work. Um, whether that's one system or many systems, always show your best work. Um, and yeah,
At the cost of sometimes possibly sacrificing some animations that you may think are good, but if you don't think they're good enough, just don't put them inside. And just one thing that, because you said all your best work, one tip for demo reels as well is that specifically spend some time picking the first animation and the last. Because you open on something that would be the first impression you would have from that candidate, and it will set the tone right away. And then the last animation is going to be the fragment that will leave the footprint. So even if in between you have some fragments that you think that are a bit less polished and less good, then make sure that your first and opener and like intro outro are the best of your pieces. That would be my advice.
yeah. Is it so? Here's another question: is it a prerequisite for all gameplay animators to be technical?
As in, there's no like you can open a dictionary and say gameplay animator should have, like we said before, you don't have to know how to code program. Technical skill. I mean, so let me start over. In my own dictionary, mass dictionary, gameplay animators should be technical, or at least sensitive to what it means to bring your animation to a bigger system. So it's at least understanding the context we're talking about, and the context you're you're putting your animations in. If someone says, all right, just can you make an attack for me, your first questions, you're not gonna work on an attack. You're gonna have to ask some questions. If it's melee, is it range, what kind of enemy, or am I moving during attack, and so on and so on, to understand the context. And then it starts, you starting to have the bigger picture of what your animation is going to be part of. And then it, to me, it's like I said in the talk, if you're the owner of, let's call that a feature, which means that you're here on a mocap shoot, you're here prototyping your animations and upping the quality from alpha to beta and to final quality and so on, and the one that is iterating on the way it looks and feels in the animation system. That's the best way to convey the essence of your animation, the philosophy that has been driving you from the first day you've been starting your work. And this requires at least some understanding of what is a state machine, how do animation graphs work, where do I need to click to make this happen. This also requires some logical understanding, because a lot of conditions and expressions are using logical operators. So my personal answer would be yes, but the industry answer is that it's not required. But when we talked about this, Chris, maybe you can just add like some kind of a nuance on this, I guess.
Well, I think there's your ideal team, right? And I think your ideal
Yeah.
team will have its strengths. And I think every gameplay team, every gameplay animator should have some technical knowledge. Like, to me, it goes back to that first question that you were answering. I think you shouldn't have to be a programmer, but you should maybe have taken a programming, like, programming 101 class, where you learn about logic and learn about those little basic building blocks about programming, so then you could interface with the programmer and start doing those basic building,
Mhm.
of animation systems. I think every animator, like in my ideal team, if there's a there's technical animators like me that create whole systems, but there's craft animators that maybe spend 10-15% of their time in engine implementing their things, like you're saying, they should know how the animation goes through the pipeline all the way, so they could always make the best decisions. um, that's my
Just
ideal team.
Yeah, no, but it it makes perfect sense. At least you were mentioning like 101 programming, and at least understanding what is a variable. What's an event? What's the difference between an event and a flag? Such basic things that I think, even if you're not really involved in advanced topics such as state machines and performance and IK and ragdoll and physics, it's good to understand how your animations are going to be tagged, just to communicate with the system and the code.
Yeah, and I say that because my background was, I can't I had a bachelor's in fine arts, and I took the pure animation route, but I did take some classes in high school and college, and that which helped kind of spark a little bit of, like, or at least let me understand it. And then when I went uh, to school, and I took a game design program, like, that was where it latched on, right? So,
So
but
it
we
so
can
it helped, right? Like you
definitely,
felt like it definitely helped. Yeah,
definitely. Again, I don't think you need to be a programmer, and I don't want us to be
of
like
course
all of
not.
us to be programmers, but I want us to at least understand, just like we understand design, just like programmers should understand, animation programmers should understand
Animations.
animation, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Uh, Another question. Can you walk us through your approach on being given a new system? For example, if someone asked for the player to ride a horse, how would you break down that system?
You're gonna have to be designers of the gameplay system, actually. So you're gonna have to ask questions such as um, the basic questions that come to my mind right now is that how many transitions we're gonna need. So uh, can you call the horse first? Is the horse supposed to dock to your position in a specific manner, or should you be the player adapting to the horse, which would probably be the option, right? And then you're thinking, okay, so it means I'm probably going to have to animate different directions. I can run, jog, and sprint, which means I could technically think of all those directions times the speed, maybe even the stances. If I can approach my horse crouching, then possibly I could, think of some animations from crouch to hop on a horse. And then so this is the in and out, and then you will gonna have to think about the mechanics that involve both the player and the horse, meaning that at some point you make one entity, even if for the game you're probably gonna be still two. It's a good question, actually. It's something you're gonna have to ask your programmers. Do you become one, or is it you on something, which could be a cube but in the shape of a horse that is animated? And what kind of actions I'm going to have to perform on the horse? Is it just traversal, or do I need to take care of drawing my weapon, sheathing it? Can I attack? Can I jump in motion? And each of these questions should I will start sketching. It's probably going to be a state machine in my mind of all the complex operations, transitions possible in between all those states. Start thinking about the layering involved. If you're aiming a bow, riding a horse, you're probably gonna need some layering system, and dedicated animations are gonna be dedicated to an aim offset, typically a blend space, while you're on a horse. So, it's bit by bit. You're gonna have to ask the proper questions to both designers and programmers to make sure everyone is on the same page, and then you will just start prototyping. Okay, the transitions on and off the horse are not top priority, but starting prototyping the mechanics of I'm on a horse and I can move around, and then little by little, progressively, you will just start implementing on this and adding more and more content, fine tuning, and so on and so on. I hope it answers the question.
I think that's a great answer. I think that's a great question. I would
It was a
emphasize that.
pretty good question. Yeah.
I would emphasize the point that you made is that for me, a technical animator, when they're looking at a design, is that they should be asking questions, and always asking the designer all these questions about what's going to happen and what to do, and to get those little details, so then they can create their whether it's a state machine, whether it's a layering system, they can create those systems by getting those answers. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
asking questions is definitely the basis, required top skill.
yeah, the best skill. We have time for one more question.
Sure.
What about playable demo reels? Is that a good way to show tech knowledge? Hmm.
I mean, if it's have I seen something like a playable demo reel in the past? Um,
For me, I would say for me, I would have it on your website if you have created playable demos, like in Unity. But I think you should always, I think you always want to have a video for a video video reel. So to show off.
I mean, yeah, it's good to. I mean, I will not just use a playable demo reel, because it implies that people know how to play your prototype, and you're the one that built it, and you're probably the one that knows the strength and to make it look good. Well, if you're giving the pad to someone and says, "All right, play the game," okay, so okay, so I need to go left. So I think it will definitely be make an awesome impression to support your application. So I would, like you said, I would work on a standard demo reel to showcase animations and probably the best moments, I'd say, like the highlights of your system. And as a side, like a bonus, if you want to just start the binaries and you're going to be able to play my prototype, and then maybe just do a really simple control layout to explain, what people can do, how, and so on and so on. But if you have the budget and the experience and the energy to do it, go for it. Yeah, definitely.
I think that's it for us, but I'll leave it. I think
Thanks. Thanks, guys. That was
There you are,
awesome.
man. Yeah.
With
Thank
all of
you.
these, we did not give enough time for these Q&A conversations, like at all. So that'll be something for us to think about with future shows. But thanks for your talk, Matt. Thanks for taking the time to record it and share with everyone. Thanks to Q&A, Christian. Thanks for jumping on and chatting. I think this has been really great.
Thank you once again for having me, and many questions still. So if just contact me, and I'll have a blast answering all of them.
yeah, and again, thanks, Matt. I think this is a great talk for both newcomers and veterans, and it's been great.
Thanks, Chris, for being here and for your support and having my back. Thank you very much once again, guys, for listening.
Yeah, this is great. All right, so we're just about at the last talk of the day, which is going to be real reviews. So just sit tight, and we'll be back in a minute or two with that group. Thanks, everyone.